The steel deck was hot enough to melt boot rubber. Below him, inside the hull of the M10 tank destroyer, ammunition was cooking off. It was a ticking time bomb waiting to vaporize everything within 50 yards. But the young lieutenant didn't run. He didn't take cover. He stood up. He climbed onto the burning wreckage, grabbed the caliber .50 machine gun, and looked out at the tree line. 6 German tanks, 250 infantrymen, all coming for him. It was January 26, 1945, the Colmar Pocket, France. The thermometer read 14 degrees, but the wind made it feel like death. The ground was frozen solid, harder than concrete. If you wanted to dig a foxhole, you needed explosives. The men of Company B were exhausted. Their faces were gray, eyes sunken, uniforms stiff with mud and ice. They were ghosts walking through a frozen hell. If you enjoy uncovering these forgotten moments of history, just take a quick second to hit subscribe. It helps us keep these stories alive. Leading them was a 19-year-old boy from Texas. He stood 5 feet 5 inches tall. He weighed barely 110 pounds. He had a baby face that made him look closer to 15. His name was Audie Murphy, and he was shaking. Not just from the cold, but from the malaria burning through his blood. He had every reason to be in a hospital bed. Instead, he was the company commander. The forest around them was silent. Too silent. Murphy stood near the edge of the woods, his boots crunching on the snow. He adjusted his helmet. It always felt too big. He looked at his map, then at the gray sky. "Lieutenant?" Murphy turned. It was one of the privates, looking nervous. "Yeah?" "It's quiet, sir. Too quiet. Get the men ready." Murphy wrote in his book later about that specific silence. He said, "It is a silence that presses down on you. You can hear your own heart beating. You know something is coming. You just pray it isn't your time." Then the earth jumped. The artillery barrage hit without warning. Trees shattered like glass. Dirt and shrapnel sprayed across the clearing. The ground heaved. Men scrambled for the shallow holes they had managed to scrape out of the ice. Then came the sound that every infantryman dreads, the metallic squeal of tank treads. Out of the mist they appeared. 2 heavy, jagged shapes. German Tiger tanks. Behind them, waves of white-clad infantry moved like phantoms against the snow. Murphy's unit had 2 tank destroyers for support. The first German shell slammed into one of them. It didn't just knock it out, it turned it into a torch. The crew scrambled out, coughing and burning, diving into the ditch. The second tank destroyer tried to maneuver. Another shell hit. A direct hit. Now both American vehicles were burning. The smoke was thick, black, and oily. It rolled over the American positions, blinding them. Murphy looked at his men. They were down to 19 effective soldiers. 19 men against a German company supported by armor. They were going to be slaughtered. He grabbed the field telephone. "Pull back!" he screamed over the roar of explosions. "Get into the woods, now!" "What about you, Audie?" a sergeant yelled back. "I said go." "I'm staying right here." He didn't have a plan. He just knew that if the Germans crossed that open field, they would overrun the retreating Americans in the woods. They needed time. Someone had to buy it. The men hesitated. They didn't want to leave him. "Get moving," Murphy barked. "That's an order." They ran. Murphy stayed. He stood alone at the edge of the forest. He had his M1 carbine, a toy against the tigers. He fired until the magazine was empty. He threw it down. He looked at the burning M10 tank destroyer. The turret was engulfed in flames. The hull was smoking, but the .50 caliber machine gun mounted on top. It looked intact. It was suicide. The vehicle was full of gasoline and high explosive shells. It could blow at any second. Murphy didn't think. He ran toward the fire. He scrambled up the muddy tracks. The heat hit him like a physical blow. The metal burned his hands as he hauled himself up to the turret. The smoke was suffocating. He grabbed the handle of the machine gun. He racked the bolt. It worked. Below him, the German infantry was advancing across the snow, confident. They thought the Americans were gone. Murphy pulled the trigger. The heavy gun roared. The first line of German soldiers dropped. The others froze, confused. They couldn't see where the fire was coming from. Who would be crazy enough to be on top of a burning tank? Bullets started snapping around him. They pinged off the metal hull. They hissed through the flames. Murphy swung the gun left and right. He was a one-man army. He cut down squad after squad. The Germans dove for cover in the ditches. The advance stalled. But the tanks were still coming. Murphy grabbed the field radio he had dragged up with him. He was connected to the artillery battalion miles away. "Battalion, this is Murphy. I need a fire mission." "Grid coordinates?" The voice on the other end crackled. "Right here," Murphy said. "Drop it right on me." "Lieutenant, that's too close." "We can't do that." "I said drop it. The Krauts are all over the place." The first rounds whistled in. They landed 100 yards out. Huge geysers of frozen dirt and snow erupted. The German tanks buttoned up. They couldn't see the tiny figure amidst the smoke and flames of the burning destroyer. Murphy kept firing. The recoil of the .50 caliber shook his small frame. His boot was soaking with blood. He hadn't realized it, but he'd been hit in the leg. He didn't feel it. The adrenaline was a drug. "Closer!" he yelled into the radio. "Bring it closer!" "How close are they, Lieutenant?" "Hold the phone. I'll let you talk to one of the bastards." The German infantry tried to flank him on the right. Murphy saw them. He spun the turret gun. The heavy rounds tore through the brush. The Germans retreated. He was alone in a world of noise and fire. His view was a narrow tunnel of tracers and smoke. In his autobiography, To Hell and Back, he wrote about this moment. He said, "I was no longer afraid. My fear had been exhausted. I felt a strange clarity. I was there to kill, and I was going to kill as many as I could before the end." The German tanks began to fire their machine guns at the burning hulk. They knew someone was up there now. Bullets sparked off the turret ring inches from his face. The heat from the burning destroyer was searing his eyebrows. His uniform was starting to smolder. He didn't stop. He reloaded. He fired. He corrected artillery. Add 50. Fire for effect. The American artillery shells were landing within 50 yards of his position now. The concussion threatened to blow him off the tank. Shrapnel whizzed past his ears. The German line was breaking. They couldn't advance through the wall of steel Murphy was calling down on them. For an hour, he held them back. 1 man. 1 hour. The sky began to darken. The ammunition inside the M10 was popping louder now. The fire was reaching the main magazine. "Lieutenant, your line is breaking up," the radio operator said. "I'm leaving," Murphy said. "This thing is about to go." He cut the last belt of ammunition. He fired the last burst. Then he jumped. He hit the snow and rolled. His legs screamed in pain. He scrambled into the tree line, limping, dragging himself through the snow. Seconds later, the M10 exploded. The turret was blown clean off. A pillar of fire shot into the sky. If he had stayed 10 seconds longer, he would have been vaporized. Murphy fell into the arms of his men. They looked at him like he was a ghost. He was covered in soot, blood, and oil. He looked demonic. "Are you okay, Audie?" He pushed himself up. He wouldn't stay down. "Give me a rifle," he said. "Sir, you're bleeding." I said, "Give me a rifle. We're going back." This is the part that defies belief. After holding off a company for an hour, after being wounded, after escaping an explosion, Audie Murphy led a counterattack. He refused medical evacuation. He rallied his 19 men. They moved forward, back toward the burning tank. The Germans, confused and battered by the artillery, were falling back. Murphy limped at the front of the line. He shot a German sniper who tried to take aim at him. He pushed his men forward until they had retaken the entire wood line. Only then, when the position was secure, did he sit down. He looked at his leg. The trouser leg was soaked red. One of the men sat beside him. "How many did you get, Lieutenant?" Murphy didn't answer immediately. He looked out at the field. Bodies were scattered across the snow like dark bundles of laundry. "Enough," he whispered. "I got enough." Official U.S. Army records credit Audie Murphy with killing or wounding 50 German soldiers that day. He stopped an armored advance single-handedly. For his actions at Holtzwihr, he was awarded the Medal of Honor. But the medals didn't fix what broke inside. Murphy survived the war. He became the most decorated soldier in American history. He came home to parades. He became a movie star. He played himself in the movie of his own life. But he slept with a loaded pistol under his pillow for the rest of his life. He suffered from terrible nightmares. The silence of the night always brought him back to that frozen field in France. He wrote in a letter to a friend years later, "There is no glory in war. It is only blood and dying. The glory is a lie we tell ourselves so we can sleep at night." Audie Murphy died in a plane crash in 1971. He was 46 years old, but in a way, a part of him never left that burning tank destroyer in 1945. War creates heroes, but it also creates shadows. And Audie Murphy lived in that shadow until his last breath. If you want more true stories about the men who walked through hell and came back, subscribe to the channel. We are here to remember them.